Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. This is, man, I'm really looking forward to tonight. We are recording this on September 16th, 2013. And, man, Ramon, I'll tell you what, you know, there's so much changing in the world right now. And along with the weather here in Western Washington, we had another, you know, I told you last week about that thunderstorm we had here. That thing raged all day long here. And then that's the one that ended up in Colorado, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And then today or yesterday, we had another day. We had thunder and lightning all over the place, which, you know, we have a couple of storms every year here, thunder and lightning, you know, half a dozen times here in Western Washington, but not typically. We don't. It's not like the Mid-South where, you know, every afternoon you get a thunderstorm. But I don't know. It seems like the air is charged. You know, what's happening inside us right now. You know, all the changes that are happening and the truth being exposed. You know, I can't help but see the Tower card in the tarot deck. You know, the lightning striking the tower and exposing the truth and. I kind of see that, especially that storm we had last week. I mean, it was thunder and lightning from the time I woke up till way after I went to bed that night. And I just see that as kind of a reflection of what's going on inside us right now on the planet.
Yeah, there was a typhoon here yesterday. Our Sunday night into Monday morning. It didn't finish off till like Monday afternoon, but it was windy all day. Like some of my basils were broken.
Oh, you broken basil? Actually, my garden fared pretty well. I've got a fence on one side of it, so I'm sure that helped it. Well, we didn't have any wind either, which was freaking bizarre. I mean, that was flat out bizarre. We had that thunderstorm all day long, and it was like dead calm. So
yeah,
it was bizarre. It was definitely in that surrealistic type window. So
yeah. So I found some stuff here that's interesting. One is a video that is called this 3-minute commercial puts a full-length Hollywood film to shame. I'm not gonna tell you what it's about, but just have some tissue on the side. It's really, really, really good, and you can find that on our Facebook. Just put in the 100th Monkey, and you can find it there. And the last thing that I just want to mention real quick is this article I found called Mind Over Matter. Mind Over Matter. Princeton and Russian scientists reveal the secrets of human aura and intentions. I won't go deeper into that. But you guys should definitely read this article, and you'll definitely enjoy it. Once again, you can find that on the Facebook. If you scroll down, I always have like a bunch of stuff, especially.
Why don't you link that article in the news section too on the page on the site, if you would?
Yeah, I'll do that.
That's an easy place to find it. There, going through Facebook for me sometimes is more of a pain than it's worth in my world, anyways.
Yeah, well, you don't like Facebook.
I know. That's what I'm talking about. So,
well,
anyway,
We have an amazing person. Who do we have, Tom?
We have Talat Jonathan Phillips. He's the co-founder of the Cutting Edge web magazine Reality Sandwich and the Evolver Network. Talat is a well-regarded energy healer who has been practicing for over a decade. His memoir, The Electric Jesus, The Healing Journey of a Contemporary Gnostic, has become one of the must-read books of the new consciousness movement for its honest portrayal of life on the emerging edge of the transformational culture. He is creator of the ayahuasca monologues, Tales of the Spirit Vine, a religion blogger for the Huffington Post, a Reiki master, a life coach, and bioenergetic healer who does Skype sessions for clients all around the world from his San Francisco office. His website is www.talathealing.com. That's TALAT healing.com. And I'd like to give you a warm 100th Monkey welcome to the show, Talat.
Yo, it's good to be here. My home state of Colorado is just like sinking right now. I called my sister, and her ditch in front of her house has turned into a river. It's weird just to see places I grew up in, and like the roads are gone. Like
Right.
Mountain roads I grew up and drove on are no more, and it just reminds me of like the changes going on with the world, the climatic, there's just shift upon shift, and things we think are solid, like entire highways I used to drive in,
Right.
they can go away in a minute, and then you've got to adapt and learn how to deal. So it's been interesting times, you know?
Yeah, I mean there is just so much going on this planet right now, and we're definitely going to pick your brain on what you see out there. But first, just for our listeners, so that they get to know exactly who you are and what got you on this consciousness path in the first place. You want to give us a little bit of background there? What
Yeah,
to this point?
yeah, and it's kind of how my book, The Electric Jesus, kicks off. Like, I used to have not very little, if any, spiritual consciousness, interest, or believed in anything. In fact, I used to think monks were a little crazy for, like, spending all their time on mountains meditating. Why weren't they chasing girls? But I was an activist, and when Bush won his second election, I just went into a dark night of the soul. And looking at the planetary situation, 3 species dying on average per hour in the 6th grade extinction, it just occurred to me that our problems were too big for like Democrat, Republican, governments, corporations, military, everything. And I thought what we needed was some type of paradigm shift. To my surprise, and I talked about this quite in depth in The Electric Jesus, is my book is on my 30th birthday, that wish may you get what you wish, or that Chinese curse, may you get what you wish for.
Right.
It happened to me like in really surprising ways. My girlfriend at the time called me up and said, "You've been stressed about politics for months. It's time for you to take some MDMA," which for folks out there that don't know, it's some pure ecstasy, "and get your butt on the dance floor." And this simple advice changed my life, because finally, after months, I got out of my head, into my heart, into my body, and I connected with the community around me. And all these synchronicities just started happening, all these amazing coincidences. And to the time where I got home and I laid in bed and I felt this presence come to me. And I sat up in bed and just thought to myself, oh, you could see the world that way. And in that moment, poof, the lights turned on. And I could see energy fields around people, around furniture, around lampposts, trees, everything I saw had this kind of energetic field around it. And now I understand, like, some people might call those auras or whatever, but, this is what quantum physicists are now saying, is like the whole universe is energy. And I think this is what the old mystics understood a long time ago. They had spiritual consciousness technologies to access it, almost like we use a microscope to access the like smaller worlds, and they were able to access more of the cosmic world, if you will. And so on my book, I go on this journey of investigating early Christianity and the mysticism in that, and how I think they were all a bunch of like badass energy healers and knew how to evolve consciousness. and also other cultures across the planet and how they've been all saying similar things about energy transformation and using symbols to do it. And as well as going on my own journey of like ayahuasca ceremonies, kundalini awakenings, tantric healings, and kind of some miraculous stuff started happening. And then I became a professional healer and life coach. And, you know, my life's just been a freaking blessing ever since.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it, man. You know, what I guess kind of the direction we want to go tonight is I've actually kind of noticed trends on the planet within the conscious community of certain items that seem to be on the table for people to work on. And I'm kind of seeing this as something that's really prominent in the conscious field, you know, in our social consciousness. Like it seems like right now, I know so many people who are really, truly, and with that pure intention. I mean, you can see it that they're honestly doing this, where they're really going inside and trying to sort out those voices and sort out the root of their reactive state of mind. You know, why do every time this happens to me, I react this way without thinking, just instantly react? So I guess I probably put this in a nutshell. It'd be like understanding that reactive response that we have to all the different situations in life, and actually rooting out the cause. Where does this come from? What is it? What is it? How is it affecting me? Is it blocking me from doing something or growing? It's obviously coming up into my consciousness, so there's something I've got to deal with here. So anyways, that's kind of where I'd like to go, at least to start this off with.
Oh, man, we're going to go right down the rabbit hole.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. Yeah, and trust me, nothing is taboo on this show.
All right, then let's go. Let's go. I mean, first, I want to say I really appreciate that comment, because I feel like just that realization itself creates a whole new world of activity. It's kind of funny. A friend of mine at Burning Man this year said, you went from being an activist to being activated. And I kind of think that's a little what you're saying, is instead of, like Graham Hancock, Fingerprints of the Gods author, who did the foreword of my book, he often will state how we're constantly in a fix-it, analytical mind framework in Western culture. So every time we're faced with a problem, we instantly go to fix it, solve it, you know, and it's like scrambling. And if we can calm down and relax and contemplate and then act from a centered place, things would be very different. And it requires embracing the feminine, embracing spatiality, quality versus just quantity. And with that kind of more centered space, we can act in a better place. I find that to be vastly true. Just taking a breath. I have all sorts of simple techniques to change complex emotional baggage that I'm carrying, you know. Simple things like just touching my heart before I speak. Right. When someone else talks, giving them 2 seconds, like a 2-second breath before I say something. That helps. And of course, I forget this stuff too. Now, a question I'm really interested in is, what are these blocks in these voices? And my whole next book is going to focus on that. People that read The Electric Jesus, I tend to get kind of 3 emails, generally speaking. People who are just going through some activation spiritual process, and they're like, wow, I'm not crazy. Thank you for writing this book. And they have synchronicities like mine, and our stories often relate. Another one is that in my book, and I kept this out of my book until like the final edit, when author Daniel Pinchbeck of the book 2012 finally said to me, you got to put everything in there. Your shadow stuff, your messy life, the relationships, everything. And that meant putting in that most of my guidance in The Electric Jesus seemed to be from some type of galactic intelligence, like a shamanic, almost like alien galactic awakening. And I get a lot of emails around that. because people are like, holy shite, I can't believe you, I should try to avoid the cuss word there.
Yeah, no worries on
No, it's okay.
No
No
worries
worries.
okay. And people are like, I can't believe you actually wrote about these things, because I'm having those experiences too. And then the other thing is what I call the black bowling ball. It's in my stomach, this gut, this thing that I had carried around since childhood, anxiety, depression, just like a moroseness about things, a lethargy, and panic attacks. And it just used to just take me down. And about 4 years ago, I was in the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens on psychedelic mushrooms, and I was in the
Nice.
bath. Yeah, and I was in the bathroom, and that's where all your shadow stuff comes up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there's one rule in the bathroom on psychedelics, right? Whatever you do, do not look at yourself in the mirror.
Right.
But I had to do it because I felt the black bowling ball. And what I came to understand very quickly was it was a energetic, what we would call a parasitic attachment in quantum healing. That something in the quantum field, the energetic field, was attached in there. And you could literally say, we have all these sayings like, this guy's got demons, or there's a monkey on his back.
Right.
There was some parasite in my abdomen, in the back of my heart, that was sabotaging my life. And that caused me to go on a 4-year journey. And when I went home, like when I realized this, I was scared so much. I was just so scared for days. And I started tracking my thoughts. And suddenly I understood where my suicidal thoughts came from, my negative thoughts to women and relationships, myself. And also, when I was listening to this voice, I was like, oh my God, it's telling me to like hurt other people. And I suddenly understood, like when people say they hear voices and then they go shoot up like a house, maybe it's not just mental. Maybe there's a quantum attachment, which sounds crazy, but I had suffered from depression, anxiety, bipolar, all of this stuff. And not simply, it was a 4-year battle through hell and back of illuminating this attachment, of letting go of it, learning the process of first helping myself and creating the proper defenses, the proper awareness, knowing how to attack back with love. I was able to free my life and free this being. And when that happened, the voice is gone, the bipolar gone, the depression gone, suicidal thoughts gone, and it occurs to me that perhaps this next century of science, mental, physical, emotional health, will be a lot like the last century, where we found out that there were these invisible beings that were harming us that we couldn't see, and they were called germs. I think we're going to discover that there are parasites and germs in the energetic fields that directly relate with the other systems, like the immune system, the nervous system, And as we learn to treat these, a lot of our health issues will kind of... And the great beautiful thing is, as you heal it, they turn into your gifts on a quantum level.
Right.
Like your darkest shadow ends up becoming your greatest gift. Like through this process, I learned what I'm calling psychedelic surfing. Because I learned, instead of to battle the demon, learn to surf a demon wave, like a big wave surfer would. One of the biggest waves on the planet they surf in Tahiti is called the demon wave. And they, instead of crying about it and saying life is tough, they go in with a surfboard and enjoy it.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I want to do now, is work with cannabis and yoga and body work and energy healing, and become a surfer and teach people, instead of being like a healer, life coach, it's more of like, yeah, I've maybe surfed a few more waves than you. Let me teach you some skills on how to surf life, and we go on journeys together. Right. So that's kind of like where I'm looking at my future practice going.
So when I look at this, for lack of a more accurate term, this entity involvement in all of us, and the reason I say in all of us is because when I have looked at this issue, and trust me, I've done a lot of seeking in this area, and I had my own to come to terms with also. But when I look out, I see kind of a full spectrum of involvement from a lot of different layers. There's some that are on the archetypical level, which are universal and common to all, and they still have their ability to fuck your life up just like all the rest of them. But then there's another level that it is developed personally. So it'll have the sentience with it will be kind of individuated and attached on a more localized level. And then between those two spectrums, you have the full archetypical and then the complete individual. There's a full spectrum of other levels of these classes or legions of demons or entities or whatever you want to call them. I'm just curious if you kind of see it along those same sort of lines, or how you actually see that structure.
I mean, it sounds to me like you've done a study into this, because you're talking about the interbeing of the universe, this vast ecosystem that is so much greater than what we just perceive. I think we can only see like 4% of the universe. So that leaves 96% of the dimensional realms and energetic realms and all sorts of stuff that we are, I think, awakening to and understanding.
Right.
And with that comes a deeper knowledge of our own shadows and the larger global shadow, maybe even intergalactic shadows that are happening. And I think it is like this. It's archetypal, it's personal, it's real, it's unreal, it's a mystery. And energy transforms too. Demon becomes an eagle, becomes an ally.
Right.
I mean, it's like water, ice doesn't have to stay ice. It can become humble again and clear with the purifying aspect of spirit or consciousness or just awakening to oneself. And, from a Gnostic perspective, which it sounded like you were almost taking, they have this whole like archetypes of the archons,
right,
the demiurge, these world controlling forces. And as I started waking up to a deeper reality, it seemed like, wow, this cultural matrix we're in of right and wrong and being good and having to be a certain way, and the industrialized, mechanized way of like living, which it seems so counterintuitive to spirit. There are these controlling forces. And in Gnostic realms, Jesus would actually like come in as like a secret agent and sneak through those lines, whether it's dimensional or whatever, into this reality to remind us of our healing spark, and then activate that, and then we could transcend through those realms. And in the Gospel of Mary, she's like a beloved disciple. She's like the main disciple of the Gnostics oftentimes. The feminine was valued quite deeply. And she is able personally to overcome her own archons in order to liberate herself. But they're also universal icons. So it's like that as above, so below. Right. Also, when we talk about these archetypal energies, it's important to talk about guides and allies, because they're there too, and they're probably much stronger. I didn't believe in guides. I was doing mediumship work with the Santo Daime ayahuasca mystery religion from the Amazon. They do a lot of mediumship, and I could very easily bring in this dark being. And he would yell and scream and fight until finally he started going through a healing process through my body. He'd speak through me in English. But guides, they would always say, call in your guides to clean out after you bring in a dark being. And I remember in one ceremony, I just yelled, and I said, there are no guides. Then about 2 years ago on my birthday in a ceremony, they said to call in your guides. And suddenly my arms started moving. They started swaying. They started doing these badass kung fu chai chi moves. And they started pounding on my stomach where the entity was in my heart and pulling stuff out. And man, I just started crying because I felt like a soul connection. I'd finally connected with this lost brother, this lost friend, my amigo, my ally, my guide. And it wasn't this esoteric, theoretical thing of like these guides up there in the astral. This was my buddy on the wrestling mat helping me do the work. Right. And ever since that moment, he comes in and works with me with clients and stuff. And it's almost too good to believe. And I think that's a beautiful thing about this work, is sometimes it is. The logical mind has to give way to the reason, the rational, and the magical and the mythical.
And that's something that I'm seeing that's shifting on the planet right now so quickly, as far as the acceptance and the knowing of that. We have so many people now that are actually getting that real connection happening. I mean, where they can undeniable connections. And, and that's what it takes to get that real knowing inside, right?
Yeah, and you're talking about the 100th monkey. I think it's the same like with the 4-minute mile. You know how no one could break that 4-minute mile for years and years? And then one dude broke it and suddenly like dozens were doing it. I think it's the same with this mediumship and connecting with guides and channeling stuff in. Is the more folks do it, the more it opens it up for everybody else, because it goes in the collective unconscious, and then suddenly it's just like we've invented new technologies and human tools for our evolutionary process.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's something about when you witness someone else do the quote unquote impossible, all of a sudden it really breaks that window, that plastic window that we put up that says that's impossible. You can bounce yourself up against that window and said, "Oh, I believe, but either you hit this knowing point or you witness someone else do it, and all of a sudden that plastic no longer exists, and it becomes easy. Like, I'll give you an example. And I haven't tried it in a while, but I saw I don't know if you're familiar with James Gilliland, but I saw him like my battery for my sorry, I'm forgetting English. My battery for the flashlight. Thank you, Tom. Was completely out, and he grabbed it and he like charged it up, and then I was astonished by this. And then I mentioned it to somebody else, and I said, "Yeah, I can do that too. That's easy."
He just charged it up by his hands, by the way. Just put it in.
Yeah, I mean, that needs to be clarified. That's the part. So, Ramon, I have just told you this story about guides.
Yeah.
Bringing in guides, working with guides, my guide coming in and speaking to clients and cleaning them out of their own parasitic attachments. That's probably weird for some of your listeners to hear. When I hear you say this, some dude lights up a flashlight with his hand, I need to see it. I don't believe it. It's too good to be true. But you saw it, and if I saw it, I think I need to see two people do it and know it's not a magic trick. I would believe it. But right now, I still need to kind of see it to believe it. I think the Gnostic path and the skeptic path are like brothers, sisters to one another.
Oh, they have to be.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, that's my point right there. Is that, like, you made the point that I was trying to make, where once you witness something, that melts away. It's no longer like, don't keep your mind so open that your brain will fall out. It's like, okay, I'm seeing this, and so it's real. So it's not that he lit the flashlight with his hand. It's that he charged the battery with his hands.
Yeah, I had a friend this weekend. He's a great healer, and he's like, people think it's seeing is believing, but believing is seeing. And
Yeah.
I personally think it's an relationship. Sometimes you need to see to believe, and then you see that and you believe it, and then you can start seeing more. For Ramon, for me, the big inspiration was this big wave surfer named Laird Hamilton, because he literally surfed a wave called the Demon Wave that people didn't think was possible. Are you guys still there?
Yeah,
still here.
Oh, okay, it sounded like it knocked out for a second. And this guy is like a super athlete. No one could surf these waves because first they couldn't go fast enough. And so they invented toe-in surfing. So literally they would get a jet ski and pull a guy in so he could go fast enough to ride a giant 50-foot wave. And then they realized they needed straps like on a skateboard or a snowboard. So they put straps on it so he could have better agility. And they used all this human ingenuity and technology with working out, practicing 1-foot wave, 2-foot, 3-foot, 5-foot, 10-foot waves, until finally he could surf a wave no one thought was surfable. And that's kind of how I look at my healing practice. Is I went 4 years of surfing a giant demon wave. And finally, like, surfing that, I feel like personally I want to teach other people, like, you don't think you can overcome depression? You don't think you can overcome schizophrenia, suicidal? Guess what? I think those waves are surfable. I think we can overcome them because I've seen it happen. And what I'm seeing in a lot of professional world is I just want a lot of the psychiatric world to admit they are failing. That they
The drugs aren't doing it, you mean?
Yeah, because if I had all these clients coming in and their lives still suck and they're taking Prozac and they're jumping off buildings and no one's being accountable for this kind of reckless behavior in scientific, just solely scientific perspective. But if you, like for me, that would be failure. And I'm just not seeing that with psychiatry of like, wow, we're not curing people, we're not healing people on a large level. Depressions are up, anxiety is up.
But they're making money.
Exactly. It's part of the big pharma and all this. But if we could just lose some cultural, societal arrogance and be like, wow, we need to rethink. And maybe new ideas need to come in here. Then we could actually work with something. So I'm feeling like, though, for me to break a depression wave in this, I'm eventually going to write an article in a book, and I hope that inspires a few people. Just like every listener out there, they do their own gift and their magical thing to inspire themselves and everyone else that, holy cow, we as humans can do it. And that was my download from Burning Man this year. Is I saw so much off-the-hook art, fire performances, music was just taken to a whole other level because I took 7 years off. And I just kept running around the place going like, oh my God, a human did this. A human did that. A human did that. I'm so inspired by these guys. And it inspired me to take my whole thing up to a new level.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Some of the amazing things, with the whole drug issue as far as like the pharmaceutical stuff, and it's amazing how they always say, well, it's a gun issue. And in England and in China, it's a knife issue. And then next it'll be, whatever, it's a toothbrush issue. Meaning, when you get these guys that go out there and do, these horrendous things, but then when you look back, it's like, well, guess what drug they were on? It's like they were all on some kind of antidepressant or anti-anxiety drug. And that's never looked at. They never point their finger to look at that. And that really shows where, like you were saying before, how we're failing. So my question to you is, someone listening to this show is saying to themselves, well, yeah, that sounds all great, but how do I start surfing? Do I even have a surfboard? Or am I just going to go out there and drown?
Oh, my God, this is such a fabulous question. I'm so impressed. I mean, I think what you've asked is not an easy answer. It's a study, and it's everyone's individual study of how they want to surf life. For me, I realized I did the ayahuasca, I did the spiritual, I did the religious, and it just didn't fucking work for me. I needed to have fun, and I needed to be a spiritual athlete. And suddenly I started looking at my clients not as clients because it's degrading. I'm the healer, they're the client. They know more about their healing than me. So I started calling them teammates. And it just took away all this weird karmic stuff and guru complexes. It's like, no, the wave is in charge. The wave is always in charge. All I can do is surf it. So how do they find it themselves? Well, I mean, eventually I want to do, first of all, I do life coaching. So people are welcome to start up a healing program with me. And my thoughts are, a lot of people look for the magic bullet, like you come for one session, you're magically healed. It takes 6 months, 8 months before you really see major shifts. But then you see people change jobs, change relationship patterns and it starts getting better. The main thing I see is if people have a will, like a really strong will, and they start, instead of dreading things, they start looking forward to them. Wow, I'm going to go to yoga. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to eat healthy food because it's fun, not because I'm supposed to. Then their life transforms and they change because they're their best healer. They're their own spiritual athlete. I can't do it for them. The ones I see not work out is when they're not ready. They're lazy. Sometimes they're so trapped in the parasitic attachments. They're so locked into their constricted forms that it's just really painful. It's too painful to come out of that shell right now. And I honor that. And hopefully I think there's some people that can work with them, but it's not me at this point in time. Eventually, I really do want to create these cannabis surfing schools where we certify people. I want to have big, giant LED lights that just blast beautiful colors on people as we're doing healings for the different chakra centers, great music. And we literally just go surfing for 3 or 4 hours and really move through some of this stuff. But I really think looking at your own healing practice as an athlete, as you're your own spiritual warrior, you're in charge. Once you make that decision, everything changes. Problem is, our whole system has a masochist psychopathic relationship. Hospitals, medical system, doctors, it's kind of psychopathic. And we have all these masochists coming in saying, please heal me, help me. And there's not a lot of people saying, here's how you empower yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
And of course, if they're hearing voices and it's really deep psychosis, that's a lot of deep work. You need so many different, like a healer team around that. So I do want to also just acknowledge it depends on how deep the issue is.
Yeah, the one that I've seen on the table more predominantly right now is people that are starting to recognize that their responses in the world, the way they're reacting to situations in the world, they're realizing that that's not what they really feel. That's not how they really see, or how they really, would truly react to the situation. They would have just thought about it a little bit. So it's like people going, "Whoa, that wasn't really me."
It was an old pattern. What would Buddhists call it? They call it like habit energy.
Right. The programmed reaction.
Yeah, programmed through the generations, the ancestors, the society, and we got to have love for it all. I'm amazed we've survived this far with all the trauma and stuff people have been through. If you're alive listening to this call, you've already rocked it. You're only going to rock it more. It's,
Yeah.
And so, like, a thought of that I had is nonviolent communication is like a superpower. If you use that in your interactions with people, with encouragement, like we work as a team, instead of it's me, you, if it's us, if it's a we, it becomes fun, it becomes active, it becomes spontaneous jazz. You and I, us, we become a good jazz band together, or improv comedy. And once we do that, we can learn nonviolent communication. And it's so simple. It's just like you said. It's like people just don't take 1 minute and say, how do I feel about this? And what I learned is when I started feeling into my emotions, I thought they'd all be negative. But I'd be like, I'm scared, I'm depressed, I'm sad. And then I'd suddenly be like, and I'm excited. And there's something fun here. And I started noticing positive under the negative that I never knew was there, because I never spent enough time in my feelings that were below my protective armor. And what I'm feeling, it sounds like you guys are experiencing this too, I'm not sure. I'm almost finding like I'm a different being entirely than what I thought. I thought I was the ego. I thought I was this guy named Jonathan. I thought I was born to this parent. And suddenly I'm like, whoa, I'm this being. I'm this interbeing of the universe that's quite beautiful. And as the rusty armor starts failing and falling off, and I grow something that's living and breathing underneath, that's green and beautiful and artistic, a whole new life is emerging. And the way I interact in relationships changes too, especially with the feminine. I think in my relationships in the past, I was too controlling, too dominating, didn't give space. And now I'm realizing my job is to pull back a little bit and be a protector of life, a protector of the feminine, a protective of the living verb of the universe, and be a lover of that, and not care if things are right or wrong or fit into the way I think they're supposed to be. I want to be like that funny uncle that everyone hangs out at the party, because maybe he's saying the wrong jokes and everything, but he has so much love. He's willing to break through the system to create joy for other people where they may not be expecting it.
The funny uncle.
liberating force, right? I've been listening to Louis C.K.
Yeah.
as like a spiritual practice to let go of ideas of like, oh, that's right, that's wrong. He says all the messed up stuff everyone thinks of.
Hmm.
And I'm so grateful. I'm like, oh God, I totally thought of that thought too. That's so messed up.
I'm laughing about the funny uncle because I'm sure this is probably the same case in Tom's, but with me, I'm that uncle. That's why I was laughing when you said it.
Are you the funny uncle? Like, what's a
Yeah.
way that you've brought light into your family situation?
It's just like when I'm with because me and my nephew, like, we have a lot in common, and we're 17 years apart, but the funny thing is that we both have certain things that are similar. Like, for example, my dad wasn't really around, neither was his. So knowing that already, what that felt like, we kind of had that attachment. But um, as far as the funny uncle thing is just bringing out weird things to him and pointing it out to him, like, hey, what do you think of this situation? Or we were listening. I'll give you a good example. We're listening to Gil Scott Heron, and it's the one. I don't know if you're familiar with his work. Home is where the hatred is. So now every time he sees somebody who's like high on heroin, he's like, he's home. So, because for those of you who are not familiar with the song, the whole song is about how he calls home is where he's at when he's high on heroin, and that's why he calls it home is where the hatred is. So he's just trying to explain to the world what it's like to be, a heroin addict, and how easy it is for other people to say, just kick it, quit it. So that's one of the things that I've noticed, that like with my nephew through the music and other stuff, it's like he's learned. I felt like he's learned a lot of the lessons without have to go through them, like his funny uncle did.
So there's a teaching, and what I see is there's an intergenerational exchange happening here where you guys are connecting as beings and seeing each other in a deeper way. And also, you both didn't have this kind of family member growing up. So you're now relearning that through each other, which sounds really magical and just amazing to me.
Hmm.
Can I talk about something I'm really am disturbed by is this culture of punishment that we live in. Like, I think that might be just one of our biggest issues is we just interpret and judge and punish. And then we build prison systems and educational systems and political systems. All they do is freaking punish. Like Fox News, you listen to the politicians, they're just being mean to each other. And I just want to be in a society that believes we can redeem ourselves and each other. Like, and it happens in so many forms. It happens with like a Tiger Woods or a Lance Armstrong. Oh, they were so perfect. They were so, and then we shoot these heroes down instead of just being like, if you look at Greek myths, the heroes are all messed up,
Right.
As far as I know, Hercules like kills his entire family before he goes on his epic quest to get redemption. So we have like the hero death. We're not even allowed our heroes. We totally pull families apart because of addiction and health issues. And then we have a whole victimizing court structure. And it's just like we punish, punish, punish. And what I would like to see is a little bit like what would happen in certain tribal communities when an individual commits a heinous act. They take that individual and put them in the middle of the circle, the whole community. And then what they'll do is everyone will go around and say one honorable act that person's done. And that was a huge part of my journey with my... Are you guys still there?
Yeah, Tom just
I
muted
just
his,
muted because my chihuahuas were going off.
Oh, I heard the chihuahua. And so, that was a huge part of my journey with this kind of, if you want to call it energy, entity, parasitic attachment, whatever, my own conscious, like, unintegrated aspect of myself, was a restoring of honor for both of us.
Right. Well, and it does that too. And, I noted that myself. And it was, the whole Hollywood thing, the exorcist and the exorcism of demons and all that crap. I just don't, that's it. My experience says something completely different than the way they portray it in the world at large. It's not something that you can get rid of. If you just take a look at some of the concepts that we accept as truth, as like we all are one, we are a part of all. I mean, if you look at the even there's a couple different models out there. The holographic universe model. That means that every single aspect and every single little part of creation is within me. And that's there's some, I feel some truth to this, deep in my core, that all these forces, these entities, whatever you want to call them, these things that yank on our chains and our strings, those are all aspects of self. And the goal for that I had personally, anyways, was coming to a place where I can acknowledge both the dark and the light within self, and basically befriend both sides and find a balance between them to be able to move forward without having them, throw the tempest around me while I'm trying to understand what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, first, if you want to see a movie that I think depicts spirit possession there's two media things that I think depict it very well. I think The Shining, like the experience that Jack Nicholson undergoes in that haunted labyrinth, and like a world of spirit possession, just in that form when you're really in it. It's like that hotel where the rooms don't make sense, and it's like this labyrinth that you can't figure out, and someone else is in charge. And there's something weirdly mystical and attractive about it. But you're stuck and you get dark. And Jack Nicholson, the whole way, he really portrays like a person possessed in that movie.
Right.
Another one I do is Twin Peaks, if you guys have ever seen that show. Like, the character Bob is this demonic force that, spoiler alert, possesses a certain person in that show. And then they have all these dream sequences of the red rooms where they're very confusing. And the answer is not to try to find the answer in those rooms. To let go, feel the oneness, and realize it's all just illusion and a trap. And then you can help yourself. And if there is an attachment, you can help that being. And like you said, it's all self with a capital S to it.
Right.
And my issue with things like I do think, by the way, that some people probably could cast out these beings. I think it's harder to do that. But like, if you look at the New Testament, I think, the early Christians were mad, talented energy healers. And Jesus is constantly casting out beings.
Right.
Luke is just filled with it, legions. And that's what I've seen in the work with the Santo Daime is if there's one being, there's usually more. It's like misery loves company. So you've got to get all those beings moved through. What I'd like to share is the Santo Daime, because they have such a cool tradition. And I think it was a spiritual upgrade, perhaps, for the planet. Talk about, like, the guy that ran the first 4-minute mile. There was this founder of the Santo Daime, which is this ayahuasca plant medicine church in the Amazon, based on kind of Christianity meets nature spirits meets mediumship from Africa. If you can put all that together, that's the Daime.
Right.
A lot of the Amazon, a lot of nature. And, Mother Mary, the goddess, is considered the goddess of the universe, the nature goddess. So it's a very feminine one, too. But Padrino Sebastião, one of the formalizers of this church, I think it was in the 80s, there was a sorcerer in the Amazon, which is pretty common. There's a lot of ayahuasca sorcerers down there. Be really careful. And he was possessed by this demon called Trunkarua, which literally means blocked path. And this story is just so mythic. And I know people that have seen Sebastião go through this journey and talk to them. But Sebastião, the sorcerer, was possessed, and Trunkarua wanted to illuminate. He wanted to heal because he was miserable. And he thought Sebastião was like the only guy on the planet that could do it or in that area. So he came to the daime and said he wanted his healing. And the sorcerer was drinking for Trunkarua, but not for himself. And I think the ceremonies were too much. He died somehow in the process. So this entity, if you have it, possessed Sebastião for 9 months. Went into his body, went in his energy field, fused in there somehow, as these things can do. And he went through a 9-month journey of doing ceremonies, puking up blood. It was just a battle. And after those 9 months, though, Trunkarua illuminated. And as he illuminated, he said, I'm going to illuminate, but I want you to help my other lost brothers and sisters. And so after that moment, they began mediumship works as charity called illumination works to help the beings of dark get their healing. And what happened is Trunkarua's whole line, his whole phalanx of beings went through and became light beings and protectors of the church. And they still hold up these works to this day. So, it just seems like this epic thing. The light, the demon, and the saint meet. And what Sebastião says in his hymns is we have to unite the positive and the negative. And that's done through illumination.
That's the Santa Claus in the contract. You have, Satan.
That's like the Saint Claus?
Satan, you have Satan, you just move one letter and you have Santa, right?
Right.
So that's where Satan turns into Santa. It's a clause in the contract.
and then he brings his bag of gifts on his sleigh for everybody. Yeah.
That's right.
And you know what? What would Sebastião's journey have been without Trunkarua? Like, sure, he would have been this great formalizer of the church, but he gets mad respect from all of us.
Right.
It's just like, whoa, you're the dude that did that. And I feel like that's our own shadow journeys that we have. It's like, you overcame that. You were able to dance with that. That's crazy. And that's why you're so powerful. Not because you didn't have the shadow, because you learned how to dance with him.
Yeah. And as far as the way that entity interaction worked there, that definitely fits within the way I see, the way I understand the way all this works. That's in that spectrum. There's a certain element where I think they can be developed within a soul, and they gain strength, I really probably not the right time to go through this, but they gain that individuation and their own sentience, and they grow and just like we grow, and then they get to a point where they have the ability to jump or to be cast out, that sort of thing. That's somewhere in that spectrum between between A and Z somewhere.
I know, and it's like differentiation. We're all one, and it's fractal upon fractal, and it's just like all interconnected. It's like, what's a human even? Are you the trillions of molecules? Are you your cells? Is a human the whole one spirit that we all seem to share? I don't know, man. It's just a wild, wild thing, this whole ride. I think Socrates was really the wisest man on the world because he just said, the only thing I know is I don't know.
Yeah.
What a soul. And I don't know if he was a soul. Was he maybe he's just all of us? I don't know.
Oh, man.
Can I tell you a story about the Santa Daime, though, and one being that's just coming to mind that was so powerful for me?
Yeah.
I was in a ceremony, and it was a pretty hard illumination work, and there was one being that was just on the ground wailing. And one of my mentors, I can't name names, but we'll call him Padrino. He's a Padrino. He's a beautiful soul that just works with so many beings and helping them find their way back to themselves. Right? That's really the journey, is back to yourself. And there was one being on the ground yelling and wailing and angry and this. And I remember Padrino says to him, do you know who you are? Do you know what you are? And the being's like, rah, rah, rah. I'm so angry. It's like, do you know who you are? And he just took a pause, went into his heart and said, kind of with this rock star attitude almost, but humble and courageous, I'm a free spirit. And nothing in Sarah, I just started crying on the spot. He's a free spirit. And I realized this guy lived his life and walked his life every day as a free spirit in the three-dimensional realm. And that being caught that too and realized, like, whoa, I want that. I want to be a free spirit too. And he ended up like illuminating on the spot. Some beings can take years. This was like a moment.
Wow, what an experience. So we're at the top of the hour already, and wow, that flew by so damn fast. So, Talat, if you would share again with our listeners where they can get a hold of you and what's up, what do you got on the table coming up here for everybody?
Oh, dude, I totally appreciate that. Like, I have so much cool stuff going on. I mean, one, I've got my life coaching, healing practice. So if you want to do Skype sessions, set up a healing program, find me at talathealing.com. We are doing a healing school come October. So it's a year-long certification program into bioenergetics, life coaching, spiritual warriorship, and a lot of energy medicine, hands-on healing stuff. So if you just want to, like, further your activation, join our team. We have a good crew lining up for that. And also check out the book Electric Jesus. You'll love it. It's a fun, super fun read. And anyone from this program, just send me an email, talat@talathealing.com, with a receipt that you got the book. And I'll send you a little, like, 25 minutes chakra activation, sound healing MP3 as a gift for supporting the work.
Oh, sweet.
Nice.
Very nice. Awesome.
But just say you heard it through this program.
Okay, cool. All right, so there you go, guys. You get yourself the Electric Jesus, which actually is it's an awesome read, guys. So I definitely put it on like we said in the bio. It's definitely one of the must reads. Quite an experience you had there. So check it out, and that's talathealing.com. And if you guys aren't a member yet of the 100th Monkey Radio and are interested in joining and having access to all that second hour content, hit that join button and help support Ramon and I in all that we do. We love you guys, and we will see you in the second hour. We're going to dig in a little bit deeper into Talat and what he's been doing in this world and pick his brain some more. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance. One more time, Ramon. You cut out a little bit. Oh, the love you deny is the pain you carry. All right, guys. We'll see you guys in a second.